Alrighty, we should be good. We should be live.
Yes, we are live. Perfect.
Alrighty.
Good.
Do you want to introduce or?
This is I'm thrown off, but yes, yes, yes. All
Okay.
right. All right. Welcome to week 15 of all the factors. We're a little low energy today. I don't know if this is a good thing, but I guess it fits the mood of the poverty.
It does. Yeah, I mean it's not an
There's nothing to
exciting
be
topic,
excited
but
about. Poverty, like it's.
yeah.
Oh, there you go. We're wrecking. Joined. Okay, thank God. I didn't think anybody was gonna join.
Yay!
I'm so happy you're here,
I
and
had
you've
hope. I
you've
had hope.
joined. I did not
It was
have any
exciting.
hope. I did not have any hope. Uh, well, welcome. All right, maybe like that brings a little bit of excitement to me. That brings me a little joy that our channel is live. Uh,
Very exciting times. We got something.
reckon you know, I okay.
That's
Brother,
it.
I thought we had something special,
You
but I
didn't have you
understand.
didn't have faith that she would show up for me. She did. This is good.
All right. All right, week 15, right?
I did not put a week in the title because
But this is week
I don't
15.
know at this point. I haven't been putting weeks in the YouTube videos because they'd be all off because we can't. Um, there we
That's
go.
fine.
It's good to have a backup. Because we haven't been able to upload all of them because some of them have like copyrights because of the videos and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're doing.
And can I say something actually off topic? Not to make fun of Robin at all, but we posted that episode, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I told her I was like, hey, we posted that episode. She couldn't listen to it because she was so nervous listening to it. Isn't that
Oh,
cute? Isn't that cute? Like it's so
oh
sweet.
no.
But I was like, it's Robin. It's just like nobody listens to us. Like not to sound
Well,
all
right.
self-deprecating, but but
But
it's like
yeah,
she
I
was
mean,
so
she did a great
nervous.
job though.
She did amazing. She did amazing. But that was just like off topic thing. Like I thought that was cute.
No,
I thought that was cute.
that's sweet.
All right.
Poor thing.
Uh,
Hopefully she is able to at some point because
I meant to talk to her. She called me this
she.
on Monday, and I couldn't. I was busy. Like this last 2 weeks have been insanely busy for me.
Mm,
Maybe that's why I'm low energy. Um,
takes a lot of
Plus,
energy
I've started
mentally.
to go back to the gym, so I'm really sore right now. So every time
Mm.
like I toss and turn at night, it's just like pain, and I wake up. So that's another probably reason why I'm low energy this week. But once I get going, the beast just comes right out. So I'm sure I'll pick it up.
Well, sure. Hypothetically, it should increase your energy at some point once you get
Right,
used to it.
right. All right. No. I mean, like just talking, all the factors. I'm sure I'm gonna. My energy will pick up as we continue to have some stupid ass is gonna come in here, say something stupid, and then we're gonna be like, "Well, you're dumb. Please leave or stay." But just
That's
you're
it.
dumb.
This is a topic that you need like a fight for. It's
I
kind
had
of
the
hard
fight.
to just like talk about this and agree. That's why we
Yeah.
need somebody like we need like a third person who just like
Oh, do you want to
hates
involve more
everything
people
that
with this?
hates
How
everything that we
unorganized
think.
we are? You want to add more on
Well,
top of that? You
I
know.
don't know.
All right.
Oh
So
yeah,
what?
that was
Yeah, that
fun.
was it's so beautiful. And then the video I just sent you, JD Vance, like just he got checked by Keir Starmer today too. But then JD
Oh,
Vance talking
the
about like, oh
Miami
yeah,
hostage speech. Yes, we
right? Like,
have
good.
that here.
What is the? This is such a joke. Like, it's such a joke. I can't take this administration seriously at all. But anyways, we're not really focused too much on the administration. We're gonna continue on this conversation we had last week towards the end. Poverty in America. Yes, there is massive poverty in America, and as I'm saying this, there's this funny conception, um, especially in the global South.
Hmm.
They don't think there's poverty in America. You know, it's a
Interesting.
very like land of money, land of opportunity. Like we're gonna get, maybe that's why they work so hard. I don't know, like maybe why that's why a lot of the immigrants that come here, that they go above and beyond. They're think like, well, why wouldn't I work harder? You know what I mean? Not to say like that solves poverty. It's just this funny thing that happens with immigrants, right? Like I don't think the American public, general, like the Western mentality is like really aware of that. It's this funny thing that happens. Like so that's why you always hear a lot about, like, it happens with my parents a lot, and then that's why you hear like all this talk with like, oh, Mexican people work really hard, which they do. They
Hmm.
absolutely do, but it's like, it's just a funny thing that happens to me. Like, well, then they succeed, and then people use that as a thing. Like, well, look, you coming into this country and thriving, but like they don't understand like the amount of work that gets put in behind that. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense.
So like,
And it's kind of like a double-edged
well,
sword too. They use that as a thing, like, well, that then like Keds was saying, like, then we think of this poverty thing as like, oh, it's just those people over there, right? Like, but
yeah.
like that's not, like, it's not something that happens. It's not like you can fight out of it, but like what it requires is what I'm saying. Like, it requires you to be working 18 hours every single day,
Yeah.
the entire week, and then living off of nothing. And you have to do that for years. It's not like you just work one week and then boom, you're out of poverty, right? Like, it's not a thing like that
Well, that's what we
you
touched
get
on
over
a little
quickly.
bit last week. It's kind of it's you can't get out of it. I mean, in the Keds video, she said that, what was it, like 40% of people will experience at least 1 year in
Yeah.
poverty or something like that.
Yeah, they go
But
in
it's
and
just
out.
one of those things that can happen to you in an instant, really.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I do think that most people, whether it's in their minds or not, it's either like deliberately ignored or
Yeah.
people just let themselves live in like an ignorance about it. Um,
I don't think it's
but yeah,
ignored. I wouldn't say it's necessarily, I mean, maybe in some people's mind, like, oh, like, like the
I think
weirdo
about it all the
eugenics.
time because I mean I think it's because of what I did for work, but I think about it all the time. Like, I could.
Like, are you afraid of poverty just creeping around the corner waiting for you? Is that real fear in your mind?
Well,
And it's a very rational fear.
I'm like, what if I get, into a car accident
Right.
tomorrow and
You can't go to
like,
work.
well, what if I lose like brain function, like to the
Yeah.
point where I'm still like fine, but I
Yeah.
can't, I have like no memory of how to do my job or like all
Yeah.
these things that I've learned. So it's like,
Yeah.
I can't go, because I mean, we'll talk about it with like I mean, obviously you have to pivot and figure it out, but like
Yeah.
in the video, I don't have the ability to go and just like take a $10 an hour job just because that's what I have the ability to do, like I
Yeah.
would like, like
Yeah.
it just wouldn't work. So
But I mean, it doesn't even
I
necessarily
do.
have to be like that drastic, right? Like where you are crippled for the rest of your life. Where what if you just got in a normal fender bender and like you broke your like leg or something and then impaired you from working. You know
I
what
at
I mean?
least
I
could
mean,
still
you
do my
for
job without a leg. But
yeah.
I
No, but
get what you're saying.
but
Absolutely.
like
I mean, that is a position that a lot of people are in, and I
yeah.
mean, also your fender bender, your body's fine, but now you have to fix your car so that you can get places. What's the statistic? Like most Americans only have like $400 in
Yeah.
savings to cover an
Some very low
emergency.
amount. But I mean,
Yeah.
even like, what if it's a single mom? You know what I mean? Or a single dad that like just got in a car accident and now he was, they didn't offer remote. And then like with the whole new trend, I don't know if you heard that JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon video talking about like, no, I need you to be, like, you know what I mean? Like just really going off like on remote work, and most CEOs are going off on remote works. What if like that's your company? You know what I mean? Like that's just canceling
Right,
remote work. Now you
suddenly.
have
I
to,
mean, and that's
now you
happening. I
can't
feel
go
like
in.
companies are picking up on like the trend that the federal government is trying to set. Because I
Yeah.
have a friend who, like, her company is based out in Utah. Like, that's the team that she's on.
Yeah.
But they're implementing like a full like return to work, like return to office,
Yeah.
like policy. And
Yeah.
she's like, you know, like they have a Charlotte office, but she's like, what's the point of me coming into Charlotte to talk to people who aren't on my team?
Right.
Because y'all are in Utah. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, it's just stupid.
And okay, I'm gonna say this. I like working in an office. I would prefer to go into an office.
Really.
That, I'm just saying.
Have you ever? I mean, you can have whatever opinion you want. Like, we're not
Yeah.
gonna fight about work from home, but like, have you ever?
I
had a
understand.
Work from home position?
No, never.
Okay.
I mean, technically, I'm working from home right now because just I'm my own boss. So, which means like I'm on 24/7, but I'm not on right now, right?
But sometimes.
But if
you
like an
have to
emergency came up,
physically
like I gotta go.
there, right?
Yeah, I go there in the daytime.
Right.
I personally do too. I have ADHD, so it's hard for me to focus. Hey, but exactly like not that I wouldn't get my work done if I was some sort of like like if my job could be done at home. Not that I wouldn't be able to get my work done, but me personally, it's very hard for me. Even like right now, I take like asynchronous classes, which are done like like the professor will put up a video or like throw assignment, and I can take the whole week to do it, and whenever I do it. I really, really, really have to focus, and even a lot of the times, like I miss it. Like not that I don't miss it. Like I'm a good student, so I've worked like way around it. Like I got in touch with people in that class where I text them regularly, like, hey, did you do like at the beginning of the week? You know what I mean? Like if I'm taking that class, I'll go, did you do that assignment yet? Like, you know what I mean? And then they go, no, it's due then. Then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's due then. I don't have to do it. Even though I haven't even done the assignment, you know what I mean? So,
I think you might be an extrovert. I think you've been lying to yourself this whole time.
I am not an extrovert. It's draining.
You sound very extroverted right now.
I just took listen.
All that you just said, I'm like,
it's
why would no, I wouldn't do that.
It's draining for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I took a personality / like leadership kind of management test. And they told me like what kind of personality I am and all that. I took one half of it. Like UConn offered it for free. I was given maybe I could pull it up. Let's see if I can pull it up. I was given a dominance / it's called a D. I'm a D and a C. Okay. I'll tell you what that.
I haven't heard of this one.
It's called DISC assessment.
DISC assessment.
So I'm in the borderline of.
Like this.
Yeah, I'm on the borderline of a D and C. Do you want me to just share it? Maybe that's easier.
Sure.
Share screen. Oh, it doesn't. Nope, it's not even let me share it.
Are you not allowed?
Can I share like an email?
Oh yeah, you can email.
No. Well, it should let me share it.
Oh, right. It
Share
says your browser needs screen sharing permission. Okay.
Oh, so you need to give me permission?
No, it doesn't say that I can give you permission though.
Oh, okay. There.
Okay, there we
You
go.
see it? You see it?
I do.
Okay, so I'm in the dominance and consciousness. Like I'm like right in the dead center of this right here. Majority being this. So does that sound like me? I don't. I'm definitely not influential. These are the talking people. Like these are the talking people. These are more of like the dominance and the conscientious people are like.
How did
like,
we get
give me
to
this shit.
Sharing your okay, let's do a podcast episode particularly on your personality.
Right.
Fine.
But this is like we can quickly get past this. I'm just saying.
Okay, so values: getting immediate results, taking
Yeah.
action, challenging self, motivated by power and authority.
Hey.
Fears loss of control, being taken advantage of, vulnerability. You will notice self-confidence, directness, forcefulness, risk-taking. Limitations: lack of concern for others. Damn. So that must be an interesting dynamic then, if you're also highly conscientious.
Yeah, it's a weird thing for me. And so
sensitive, but also
like I can just be like, hey, get away from me. You're, I don't want to talk to you at all. But it's weird thing though, because we did this exercise where they divided people into different groups and stuff like that. And the how do I stop sharing? Bring back the call. Okay, there you go. So like we divided into like different groups, and the people at the D, they were writing stuff down, and I somehow ended up with the C group because I'm on the borderline, so I can fit into either one of those things. But I'm like the entire time, I'm like, D sounds really good. I should be over there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and like
You want to
just
be with those people.
like I want to be with the D's. You know what I mean? And like the C's is just like, and they're like throwing stuff on the board. Like we had to write like, oh, like what do we think of when we think of a C? Like direct, punctual, rule creators or whatnot. They like being like they're like more analytical and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I just want to go over there. Like, those guys sounds like cool. Like I want to be there. But I don't know how we got here. How did we get here? It's
I don't know.
oh, but I'm not. I like the structure.
You being extroverted, yes.
Yes, there you go.
That's how.
Like I like the structure of being in an office where I'm like, because if I have a boss, I can appreciate the authority of. I have issue with authority, but I can appreciate authority in the same sense. You know what I mean?
If
Like
they're in front of you.
not like if they're in front of me. I feel like if they're qualified to be in authority, I can respect that. Like, it's like a very militaristic view. Like, oh, okay, well, this 4-star general got here somehow. You know what I mean? Like, if he has like 30 years of experience and he's been deployed to like Iraq for like 15 times and he's like coming here talking to me about something or giving me an order, I was like, oh yeah, you gotta give this guy like some sort of prop. Like, you might not agree with like whatever he's done, like, but you gotta like, oh, okay, yeah, like, sure, like I understand that.
So you'll respect someone just for their title?
Not just for their title. I feel like Marco Rubio, I don't respect him. The guy is the fucking coward. But like I can understand that he's been in those positions where he might know what he's talking about, right? Like he's been in those conversations. Like I can respect that aspect. Like he has a political. If you were to ask me, like, does he have political experience and can he be a Secretary of State? Is he qualified to be Secretary of State? Yeah. Like the guy's qualified to be Secretary of State. Is he a good Secretary of State? No, obviously not, because like he's yeah, no, he's not. Like he's just not a great start. But like, can he fulfill that role? Yeah. Does he have the resume to fulfill that role? Yeah, he does. Whereas if you would to like talk about like RFK, like the guy. No, like I'm not respecting that guy.
That guy's gonna kill us all.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you want to use that as a segue to an update on Ukraine? I have not really followed Ukraine this week. I'm not gonna lie. So if you have a good update, I would love to hear it. Where they're at.
So Zelensky's coming tomorrow.
Okay.
Trump has met with the 2 European unions. Well, I guess not technically 2 European nations. Keir Starmer's today and Emmanuel Macron came a couple of days ago. Apparently, there was some sort of issue with the handshake. Trump has a big bruise on his hand. Something happened there. I think Macron was too strong for him. Yeah. Like they have this thing, and it's a long time thing where they have a weird thing with the handshake. Like,
I saw that video. That's weird.
It's
like I can't really even tell necessarily who's at fault. I feel like
I think they're both so awkward. It's like
I've never felt the need to hold on to someone's hand for like 10 minutes.
But I think it's a very French thing, though.
Is it?
I would that's my assumption. Like they like the kissing thing.
More touchy, but
they are very more for being touchy. Like they do the kissy thing, like ooh la la, like monsieur. You know what I mean? That's what I hear in my head when I hear French. Hey, if anybody from France is watching, it's just what I hear, bro. I ain't saying nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying this is what I see. I think that's what the Americans see. You know,
Now we're stereotyping the French.
I'm just saying it's
Lovely.
nothing wrong with it. I've taken a bunch of French classes. I met my wife in a French class, so love France, love France.
There you go. You can't.
But I'm just saying,
France.
like, you guys are a little touchy, according to Hollywood. So I don't know. But so Zelensky's coming tomorrow. To go back to, we keep getting off topic. Zelensky's coming tomorrow. Apparently, they've signed some sort of um, a deal for these minerals.
Okay.
And I've
see
seen some weird things. Some news outlets are saying there like literally are no minerals. like like they have vast amounts of like oil deposits.
Okay.
They do have that. I
So
hear.
where did
I
it come
heard.
from that they think they have minerals?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do
I
they
think
have
the.
minerals?
I don't know. I think there was a video by the Wall Street Journal talking about like, oh, there's big deposits of like, well, not the Wall Street Journal saying it. The Wall Street Journal was saying like, or Wall Street Opinion was saying like, there's literally no minerals, but reports from other news outlets are saying there's like vast amount quantities of lithium, copper, and some noble rare earth minerals that are needed for like vacuums and you know cars and batteries in Tesla and stuff like that. They use those stuff that is only right now kind of coming out of China only. Uh, so I don't know what's the deal here.
Mystery.
Yeah, but I think the bigger play at here, the bigger play that's gonna be is how this deal is gonna be used by Putin, because this is entirely Putin's doing. Like this deal is gonna get done with Ukraine. Ukraine's gonna get stripped. The plan, according to Trump, is this will allow U.S. presence. It will allow him to have U.S. presence on the ground in Ukraine, mainly for the protection of these U.S. Companies that are going to go in there. But security will mainly just be handled by the Europeans only.
Okay.
Which is another weird thing because, and this is another thing that doesn't make any sense either, is that Ukraine currently has no structure in place for extracting mines or open mines or any of that infrastructure for importing and exporting any of these minerals. So, but the U.S. is pretty going to have to go there and like
Do all of that.
do
Set
all
all
of that.
up.
Yeah, and I think from Putin's side of the things, I think he wants part of that. If there are indeed minerals,
Well, I'm sure.
he wants some sort of that, and I think part of it, another part of it is he wants those sanctions that the U.S. has placed on him to come into the global market again, and form an alliance with these U.S. companies to extract some of these minerals. Um, I think that's really up to him. But like I think the big main thing is he needs access to the global market, mainly the European Union, because right now, uh, Russia is completely reliant on only two nations at the moment, and it's China and India. All the oil that used to go to European countries is flowing to India and China. India is buying vast amounts of it and turning it and selling it into the Western nations. So the Western nations are still getting their European oil. I mean, their Russian
Mm-hmm.
oil, but there's this just middleman now. And if you look at the state of Gujarat in India, it's on the coastal. It has the world's largest refinery in the of oil, so it's all going there. This is keeping the Russian economy alive, um, but Russia has to sell it to China and India at a heavily discounted price compared to as what they would be selling it to the Europeans. That's one thing. Number two thing is um, China doesn't want to deal in dollars. They want to deal in the Chinese yuan, and same thing with
Right.
India. India is currently working on this new. online pay system, kind of what Elon is trying to do with X. India's been kind of working on it for a while. This is going to be a global network of money exchange to try to get away from the dollar. It's one of the other things that the BRICS nations are doing, and BRICS are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, as well as a couple of other nations are looking to join too. And in terms of, I believe, Turkey, uh, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and some other nations as well. I think they will be accepted. But those BRICS
Okay.
nations have long been trying to get away from the dollar dominance, and that's why India is working on this payment system, which will be fully online and allow other countries, smaller countries, to exchange without having to worry about the dollar. It's going to take a while, and they have their own issues because, again, they're all dictators and they don't really get along that well. Russia is the
Sure.
only kind of like, I mean, there's disputes between China and India all the time for the border, right? And the only one that really gets along is Russia. It gets along very well with India, and so does China. Um, but these are the reason why Putin wants to get away from these heavily discounted oil that he's selling and continue to sell back to the global market, and get access to the European Union again, because this is big, big money he's missing. Um,
Good to know that we're aiding in the future decline of the dollar. I love that for us.
Yeah, and that's why when Trump had come in, he had said that if any country tried to, I don't know if you remember that article, or I don't, it might have been an executive order. Honestly, I don't know how he can, like, he's just signing executive orders anyways, which doesn't, a lot of them just don't make sense. But one of the
Hmm.
things he had said was if any country tries to not trade in the dollar, he's gonna put sanctions on and put tariffs on, which
Okay.
like it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is gonna work. Um, Also, on a side
I wonder
note,
if that
not,
was just for show.
yeah, it has to be because he can't
Because
make
he
that happen.
obviously doesn't care about that.
No, I mean, it's more of a to show like, oh, America's back, baby. Like, you know what I mean? It has no,
Yeah.
it's all bark. It's all bark. There's no bite to that.
That's all
There's
I can
no bite to that.
imagine.
Yeah. And then on a side note too, there is this thinking very reverse Reagan, no, very reverse Nixon policy, is kind of what it's being dubbed. There's no final proof of it, but what Nixon did was it befriended China, to get back, or not to get back, to kind of delay the dominance of the Russians. That's what he did.
Hmm.
And now Trump is kind of pulled this reverse Nixon policy,
Okay.
by
Getting close
befriending
to Russia.
Russia to do, to get
Mm.
away from, to have Russia get away from China and to delay the dominance of the Chinese market and the Chinese military. Uh, which I don't. If I'm any of those global leaders, if I'm Xi and I'm Putin, I'm looking at this and I'm just like, they have a very strong relationship just for the mainly fact like that they're
I mean,
neighbors.
they're in an alliance, like this economic alliance together, right? Or
They're in an
combined. I
economic
know it's like
alliance.
loose, but
No, it's a very strong alliance. It's
Mhm.
just the leaders themselves are very like
Well, you're right. That's what I'm
against each
saying.
other.
It's very
It's
not.
a very weird thing.
It's not very cooperative, I guess.
Yeah, but the main goal of that alliance is like, well, we have to get away from the dollar, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the main goal. That's why they formed it. It's like a common enemy type of thing right now. So as long as the
Hmm.
United States remains a common enemy, that alliance stays strong. But India is very close with the U.S. too. India has appeared to remain neutral. Uh, but if I'm Xi
U.S.
and
front.
Putin, yeah, if I'm Xi and Putin, I'm looking at this like, well, I know Trump wants something, uh, quick and hard so he can beat his chest to his base back home. I don't have to give him any concessions. He's already shown me all his cards technically he has to do what I have to do, because if because Trump wants to do this, like, oh, he wants to come back home and go, look, I've ended the war, right? So the leverage is all in Putin's hand. So Putin necessarily doesn't have to go, oh, yeah, I'm not gonna like China anymore because me and you are friends, right? He can appear to be that way, and which he will most
Which he
likely
absolutely would.
would. He's absolutely gonna do this, but he can still remain friends with China at all day because they both have a common enemy. It's the downfall of the U.S. And to accelerate that, it's already happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much happening, as we'll continue to watch with the videos that we're going to see in terms of poverty.
All the chaos that we're causing to ourselves.
Exactly.
We're doing a good job bringing about ourselves. So it's
anti-vax, spread measles.
Overseas are helping us out.
Yeah. So it's just a real weird thing that's happening. I don't understand like what kind of plan this administration has. It's so far.
I know you mentioned it, but I love just the Trumpian way he said it. So just referencing back to like the 100% tariffs.
Yeah.
Trump said BRICS is dead.
Yeah. Right.
You'll get 100% tariffs. He said, I mentioned the 100% tariffs, and they're now BRICS is dead. Like, is it dead?
It's not.
Like,
it's not.
Still be alive.
Listen. The next 15 years, the biggest markets for any company to be doing business in, 80% of the market is China and India.
Tariffs.
It's just stupid. It's all barg just to show all the all these weirdo fucking MAGA, like, two brain cells fighting for the third spot, like, you know what I mean? The children that got left behind. It's just, like, it's just those people, you know? It's just those people that voted for him, and they're going like, yeah, look at our president, just standing up to the big, the big bullies of it. No, he's fucking doing nothing.
You mentioned No Child Left Behind, like, I know you said it as a joke, but lately I keep getting, like, clickbait articles that are like, this person graduated like their high school class with like a 3.4 or something, like a pretty decent GPA.
Yeah.
And they're like, they can't read or write. Now they're suing. Like, if any of these stories are real, like,
no, it can't be.
Sad.
It just can't be. How?
But I mean, hey, we live in a country with the average of a 6th grade reading level. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are graduating high school without knowing how to read.
I mean, if I'm sure, like, because yeah, it could be true, because No Child Left Behind, it was just test scores, right? So maybe some of these teachers were just doing like, hey, give me the paper, I'm just writing it all down, I'm just getting you an 85. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need that funding. Like, there's no other way we get this funding. Let me just give you 85, and then, like,
we gotta keep the lights on.
We gotta keep right. I need my job. A horrendous policy that was. It's incredible. From being a great policy signed by FDR to that, like, to sign to that.
Yeah, I don't know why we can never just have nice things. That would be something interesting to do a deep dive on, like education someday.
Yeah. But again, a great leeway into how poor education not necessarily leads into poverty, but is the main contributors of poverty. Do you want to hit do you want to go right into the video?
Sure. We want to do Robert Reich first.
Your call. Really your call. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I feel like we came after the French, now we're coming after the poorly educated. It's not your fault. It's not.
Yeah, we're not.
Partly your fault. Partly your fault. I'm sorry. It's just, let's be living the reality of it, but partly not your fault. But again, I know there's always this talk about, right, like, oh, you don't need college. I'm sorry. I disagree with that. There's so much research out there that shows that if you go to college, you're more likely to earn $1 million over your career than not. And again, that doesn't mean, like, yeah, you can have a great trade. Like, that certainly is a lucrative business, especially coming up right now. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. But college is not harmful to you. They're not all turning you into libtards. You're not gonna, like, I promise you, it's not like that. It's only gonna explore and broaden your mind. I promise.
I mean,
Let's
the
just get out of the
villainization
way.
of
Higher
like
education.
going college, higher education is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It is.
I mean, yes, we should be talking about other pathways
Avenues.
to
Yes.
making a living should absolutely be explored and
Yes.
talked about with kids. But I
Yes.
mean, yes, the villainization of education isn't the way to do it, because
No.
then they're just gonna, it just gives them the excuse to keep making it more and more expensive,
Yes.
and then which keeps us all dumb.
Yes.
What?
And we vote for Trump.
Right. Absolutely.
Don't vote for Trump. It's too late now, but again, if he somehow manages to run again, but please, don't go there. Let's just not make that happen.
All right, I'm doing it. I swear.
Yeah, it's taking you sweet ass time. You took this power away from me, but can we like
I
hurry
know.
the fuck up,
Well,
dog?
hey,
Come on, what's going on?
We're learning. Okay.
Learning nothing.
Here.
If your business model depends on paying your workers starvation
You can
wages,
see it, right?
Yes. You want to make it a, like theater mode,
You-
like bigger?
Oh, whoopsies.
Yeah, not that. Learn a little bit quicker, but
Hey, I
if
do
your
things at
business
my own
model
pace.
depends on paying your workers starvation wages, you should not be in business. The federal minimum wage of $7.
Actually, before we do this, should I get into the arguments that were made by Ben Shapiro?
yeah,
Against
you're brave. You're a brave
What?
person. I commend you.
why minimum wage is so bad.
I commend you.
Sorry, we're first stream on this thing, and we're a little bit of a mess. I need to get them because I wrote them down. I can't be expected to
Pay attention to.
dedicate it to memory. Honestly, like I'm not doing that.
Carve out brain space for Ben Shapiro. Yeah,
No, I
that's a tough one. I understand.
Yeah. So please excuse me. I'm having my my Kennedy moment where I'm fumbling through my papers. God damn it! Where did I put
Just
it?
as long as you don't have a McConnell moment or a John Larson moment, please.
Space
Like
out.
we got then we got concerns. Fumbling papers is okay, but just
God damn it, Ben. Where did I put? There we go. Okay.
all right, hit it.
Ready? Okay. Minimum wage is based off of supply and demand. Minimum wage jobs are that way because many people have the skill needed for that job.
Okay. Keep going. I ain't
Okay,
gonna
you
argue
want
with
me to say
them.
them all?
No,
Okay.
just go
Well, I mean-
through them.
I mean, Robert Reich is going to argue them kind of for us, but we
Yes.
will we'll say them. So we're doing both sides. We're both sidesing here, right? We'll give
No.
Ben, we're not going to play Ben because we're not doing that. Not here. Though I will say
The disdain.
the cadence that he speaks, like it like speaks to the low attention span.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
because I was like, it's like a 10-minute video. Like literally the first 3 minutes were ads, by the way. But so it's a 10-minute video where he manages to make all of these points. Some of them probably lies, but it's still like he speaks so like fast that like I'm like my brain's like actually like sticking to it. So it makes sense why he's popular.
No, it's you know what the strategy is, right? Like what his thing is. He speaks so fast, so you only are able to remember. Like as soon as you try to have a thought in your mind about something, he's already said like 4 or 5 other. Yeah. And so only very few little words, like trigger words, like dog whistles, will stick in your head, right? So you think you're learning something. You think it makes you feel like, oh, this guy really knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? He doesn't. It's just a fucking stupid ass argument, like that funny video where he goes, if we're talking about like the global sea rise, any smart house owner, just sell your house, and then the guy breaks through the fucking wall, goes like, just one fucking problem, man, just one problem. To who? To fucking Aquaman? Like, you know what I mean? Like, who's gonna live in an underwater house? Like, please explain that.
Like, how about we like think about it? I mean,
Yeah.
there was a couple arguments that he made that I kind of like in this that kind of went to that. He said like, oh, if you're selling a burger for $1, you can't pay someone $5. It's like, what?
But why can't you?
Like, that's not like.
So you can't pay
Like,
somebody.
you're gonna hire an employee who's gonna make and sell one burger an hour? Like, that's
Like what restaurant is this? What restaurant is this that sells a burger for on an hour? No, see what I mean? Like it's just
Like,
but somebody hears that like quick, and he's already on to the third one. They go like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, why would
You know,
you do that?
like foaming at the mouth. Yeah. Like no, bro.
Like no fast food company would stay in business if that was the case.
If they were selling.
Like what? Like, all right, one person an hour. That's all we can handle. Oh, I just hired another employee. 2 burgers an hour.
2 burgers, right? Like
our productivity.
What is this? Like, what the fuck? Like, is this? Like, what is this? Like, it just hurts. You can't argue that. You know, it's like you just go like you have a brain seizure, just like you start to have like a fucking like aneurysm, like listening to it, you know?
Like, I mean, I definitely think this at least once a week. I'm like reading something or watching something, and I'm like, what if it's me? What if I'm the one who's stupid?
Exactly.
What if I'm the one who doesn't understand?
Exactly.
I'm living in the fake world.
Yeah. Like I've gone too deep down the rabbit hole. Like the Matrix is all around me.
Yeah.
Like I've woken up and I'm plugged into a machine somewhere. Yeah. All the time. The time. Like this can't be real. Like
I mean,
you
I
question
have to
reality.
Be like, okay, like let's just double check. Like, I mean, what Kennedy said today was a good like level setting for yourself. Like, okay, he said that basically that this malaria outbreak wasn't a big deal.
Measles.
It happens.
Measles.
Did I say malaria?
He said malaria.
I keep doing that on this podcast. I pick like a word with the same letter, and that just like it comes out of my mouth. And I know that has to stop, but it's just happening.
Yeah,
right
like
now. Sorry, measles. Thank you for that correction.
Sorry, only a child has died. It's not a big deal. You know, last year we had 16 cases.
Sometimes we get the measles. It's okay. Like, no. Like, what are you talking about? This is completely avoidable. We got rid of it. And now you're bringing it, like...
We haven't had a death from this disease since 2009. Like, 2009.
It was 2015. Anyway,
I just,
so Ben goes on to say...
No, 2015 was one of the bigger outbreaks, but I think the death was 2009.
Was it?
Something like that. But it's been a long time, let's just say.
Hopefully we're not spreading misinformation.
I just, hey, just to clear the slate, please go get the measles vaccine. Like, get your shots, get all of them, please.
Yeah, catch up on tuberculosis.
It's not a fun time. Tuberculosis is not a fun time. My aunt passed away from TB. My aunt's passed away from TB.
Sorry.
So please, it's not a good time. Just go get your shots. Just get your shots, please.
Okay, he goes on to say only about 2.3% of people actually earn minimum wage, mostly not actually single mothers. So, you know, he's coming at the left there because we're always like, oh, how does the single mom afford to live with her minimum wage salary? Like, he goes, that's not real. You know, it's mostly like students and younger people just starting off in the workforce. If I remember correctly, I think he went on to say that I think after a year in the work, like in a minimum wage job, most people are no longer actually making minimum wage. But I mean, like, okay, and again, we don't have to argue every point that he makes, but again, like, okay, but it's still like, that doesn't mean it's anywhere near livable. And that doesn't mean that just because maybe they're not the overwhelming majority, it doesn't mean that there aren't people who are in that situation, who are single moms, who are fully grown adults, who do have to work minimum wage jobs, and they have to figure that out, and it's not possible. So the point here is the moral argument of, are we as a country providing a livable situation wage for most people, particularly working people? And the answer is clearly not.
And just to go back to our last week KEDS thing, right? Like to the point we made earlier in the podcast, like, okay, that 40% of the population isn't constantly in poverty. They're dipping in and out, in and out, in and
Yeah.
out.
Right.
So
Yeah, it can be cyclical, or it can
is
be
that
just a one-time
is that
thing.
normal to you? Is that a normal thing that we should have in this country, where it's like, oh yeah, 40% of our
Right.
population just can and at any time could
Well,
just
that's what I'm
fall
saying.
into
It's like
poverty.
a moral thing too. It's like, why don't we want to get better? Why don't we want to progress? So
Yeah,
that's
I
not
just
the
don't.
case.
And
Like,
then
why do we like? Is keeping people down just like that important to you? Like, who's that helping?
right, who's helping? And then like the guy that came in, what was his name? Ugly non-binary guy 12. Like,
Yeah.
the last thing you said, you're living in an ideal world. Like,
Yeah, we're just
be
idealists.
real. I'm sorry. Like, would you like if you're living in a shithole? Like, do you wanna? That's your reality. Do you wanna continue to just live in a shithole? And somebody comes to offer you help, and you go, "No, brother. This is my reality. You're living in an ideal world." What? Just let's get better here. Let's. I understand. No, I totally understand, and I'm a big believer of this idea, right? Like, that equality, like having true equality for every single person is a very difficult thing. Like, yeah, you need to have the dark with
Yeah.
the light, absolutely. But does that mean we don't try to attain to
Well,
that
right.
some sort of
It's
level?
like, I don't. That's what
What
I
kind of
don't like
thinking is
about
that?
people who like insist on arguing that. It's like you just like you don't want people talking about ways or brainstorming or problem solving around
Yeah,
ways that could make it better. Like, if you think the ways that I think could make it better are wrong, like, that's fine. Okay.
sure.
Like, propose what yours are. But if
Right.
you just want to say, like, oh, you're idealist, you're stupid, that's never going to work, like, okay,
Right.
well, what's your idea? It sounds like your idea is just keep things the way they are, and
Right.
then we'll just
Remain the
continue to
status quo.
decline.
Yeah, and then another thing is too is like, okay, you claim to be the greatest nation on the planet Earth with the smartest people, with the best military. So
Yeah.
what you mean to say is there are problems that you can't do anything about. Like, that makes no sense to me, right? Like
Right.
it just like
We have this, like,
just-
it is what it is mentality. And we just
yeah, and then
never-
and it's a thing with like the Canadian healthcare system, and this conversation we had too, right? Is a lot of people over there are like, well, the system we have right now, we have to wait so long. Well, the reason you have to wait so long is a money problem. You just have to throw money at this, right? Like, just open more clinics, then you wouldn't need to wait as long. Create more doctors. The government can absolutely do this. The problem isn't
Yeah, I
that
mean-
you have a system that's not working. The problem is the system isn't being run correctly. If you
Right.
don't
I
have
mean,
enough
other
doctors,
countries
get more
are-
doctors.
Other countries are able to have subsidized healthcare
Yeah,
programs that
Yeah.
run efficiently, so it's
Exactly.
not impossible.
it's a money problem. It's always a money problem. Any problem that we discuss, any problem that we talk about right here, it's a money problem. And the
Yeah,
problem
I mean,
is
we're not right.
not
They're-
putting
the
enough money
money's
into
there.
it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just not going to the
And you
right
have enough
places.
money. The U.S. government has enough money to do this.
Mhm.
You just don't need to fucking build a $2 trillion plane. You just don't have to do that all the time.
Especially to go out and fire all of the FAA, so that all they're doing is crashing into each
And the plane doesn't even work.
Anyway,
And the plane doesn't even work.
so he goes
Yeah.
on to say, changing the minimum wage prices people out of the market, i.e., people who would be competing. I can't write. Would be competing with people who are already in the market at that price point. So basically, he's saying if you, and I thought this was stupid, if you raise the
It
minimum
is.
wage to $15 an hour, you're competing with people who are already willing to work for $15 an hour. Specifically, he said college-educated people. So apparently, all these people who went to college, who dedicated those 4 years of their life to get a degree in a specific field, would throw it all away because they could flip a burger for $15. Like, okay.
Ben, what the fuck, bro? Like, what do you even say to that? Like, oh yeah, I worked so hard for 4 years, but the burger pays just as much. Okay, but
So
even if that's the
if
case,
that's what minimum wage is, then I'm going to use that as bargaining power to get
demand
more money
more.
at my job, right? Like, what? Like,
But again, like, okay, but like, let's say it is. Sure, but like, if $15 was livable for everybody, if $15, like, sure, why wouldn't you just do that? Sure, do that if $15 was livable. The
Well,
point
he's saying
is,
that
it's
those
not
people
fucking
would-
livable.
Like, people wouldn't get jobs anymore. Like,
But they would though.
you know,
But they would though.
would. I mean, that kind of feeds into the past point. It's like the only 2.2%
you know why
of
they-
people.
I'm sorry, you know why they would? Because now the job that the college students were gonna do, those are open. Dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Those people will be like, oh, we don't have enough college educated people doing these jobs, but we're gonna offer you more money to attract the colleges. It's the market. It's how it fucking works.
It's like pretending that
Supply and demand.
It's like he's pretending that if we raise minimum wage to $15, all jobs other than like CEO and burger flipper go away.
Go
Like,
away.
we don't need teachers anymore. We don't need nurses anymore.
You're right.
We don't
It
need
just-
data analysts anymore.
Everybody
We
wants
just-
to make that dollar.
burger and CEO. That's it.
Everybody wants to make that one burger an hour.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't get it. But no, what I was saying is that it kind of
Who's
feeds into
living in a
that,
fucking
like,
delusion right now? Who's living in delusion? I'm sorry.
I mean, this was a good. This also was a good reality check. Like, okay, none of these points make sense. So
No, right.
It's good.
Yeah. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. We hey, at least we have Ben Shapiro to thank for that. Like we
Yeah.
can say thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben,
Thanks, Ben,
for
for being forever just
making sure I'm not crazy.
weird. I don't know.
Just making sure I'm not
so
crazy.
The other one is it hurts small businesses the most.
No, it doesn't. It creates small businesses. It benefits small businesses. Ben, I promise you, I'm a small business owner, Ben. I promise you, if more people had more money around me, they would shop at my place more. They would help me. Please, Ben, help me, Ben.
In looking at different things for this, I also saw that. So one of the other arguments that he actually doesn't mention, which is interesting, prices go up, right? But most studies show that yes, they do go up,
Yeah,
but not
of
enough
course.
to be actually considered like inflationary. Like they go up
No.
very, very minorly. So like
Yeah.
the prices barely go up. Most consumers are able to handle that price increase, and it
Yeah.
barely covers the dent. And again, like we've talked about probably like 10 times so far in this show, that like more people can
Yeah.
be a consumer at your business.
Yeah.
So it's really just
Like-
kind of stupid.
You know what I don't understand too is this country is such a consumer heavy society, yet we continue to like alienate the consumers. Like it's just so weird. Like
Mhm.
all these companies want consumers, but yet you make sure that the consumers can't consume. Like it's just
Right,
so
you make it
ass
so
backwards.
hard, like,
Yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like they think
it's
that's
a
like this.
conspiracy for people to get credit cards, get into debt, maybe.
I don't know, but like that doesn't help anybody. It just destroys the
No.
country. Like that's how a country dies. You know what I mean? Like if more people, that's how Rome died. It's not like that Rome magically didn't just fall one day. It just
I need to put
The
like
power
a whiteboard
started to
back
go-
there and be like, it's been blank episodes since Rome was mentioned, and
okay. All
so
right.
far it.
Well,
would be
Rome is my Rome.
'cause
all right.
You mentioned it last week too.
Yes, so twice. So twice. I mentioned it
Probably
twice.
more than that.
I know. Absolutely fucking not.
Because-
Twice. Twice.
Go on.
Check the tape. All right, roll the Robert Reich video. I don't really want to listen to Ben Shapiro because he's just dumb. Like it's just dumb points that nobody like. It just
Well, the
they
last
don't
one is
they don't make
it
sense.
encourages automation.
And automation's happening right now. There's automated AI
Right, it's
fucking
gonna
drive-throughs.
happen. Same thing with like, I mean, that goes back to that prices like, okay, well, so we haven't raised the minimum wage since 2009. If I go into a grocery store, am I seeing 2009 prices? No, like absolutely not. So
I'm
prices
seeing
have
robots.
gone up. Sometimes
Yeah.
Are they still there?
What, the robots?
Yeah, that was definitely
yeah.
a Northeast thing. We don't have those down here.
You don't have those down there? Oh no, they're all
We
in
don't
Stop
do
and
that
Shop.
here.
They're all in and how many
The
like
last couple times I've gone, I haven't seen them. But
Oh, they're in Stop and Shop. They're in Whole Foods. Whole Foods doesn't even have a lot of like people working at the registers anymore. They've cut down the registers. There's more self-checkout lines.
right, so I mean, these companies are gonna do that anyway.
And
so
like I
it's
said,
just a dumb
there's
argument.
AI drive-throughs coming. So there would be no people working at fast food. It's all going to be automated. There's a bakery shop in California near Rodeo Drive where it's a fully automated cupcake shop, and the cupcakes are delicious. You
Interesting.
literally walk up to an ATM, you put your card in there, order your cupcakes, and you just watch the robot grab the cupcakes and bring them out to you. It's awesome.
Well, I mean, there's discussion to be had on whether all this is good or not. I mean, I think it's good. We just have to prepare society on the other end
yeah.
of it. Like, we have to be prepared to take care of people.
It's just a shift, right? Like when capitalism first came out, getting rid of feudalism, like the society just needed to be prepared and laws needed to be created. Congress, again, that's just the bigger issues.
That's your job. Yeah, that's your job.
They're not doing their job. They're falling behind. They're letting these companies take control. They just are. That's the real big issue, is that Congress isn't doing their job. And these companies are supposed to be predatory. Like, that's the entire business model for them. That's their job. To earn more money. They're following their nature.
Well, sure.
They're following their nature. Like a business model, a business person goes, like, how can I earn more money? Then the ethics really don't bother them.
That's why the government is set up to regulate these things and make sure you can't have monopolies or have predatory pricing or be taking advantage of, discriminating, all that sort of stuff.
And the problem is the government doesn't work right now, and it's both. Don't think like we're saying Republicans only. The Democrats are just as bad. Joe Biden was just as bad. Trump is just as bad. They're all bad. That's the fucking problem.
Very true.
Hit it. I'm gonna grab water real quick.
25 cents an hour hasn't been raised since 2009. That's the longest period without an increase since the minimum wage was enacted, meaning today's minimum wage is actually worth far less than it was in 2009. This is an insult to American workers and bad for our economy. It's far past time to raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. Today's federal minimum wage is a starvation wage. A full-time minimum wage worker can't afford a 2-bedroom rental in any city, county, or state in the entire country. Meanwhile, billionaires like Jeff Bezos can afford a DC mansion with 25 bathrooms and 5 living rooms, just one of his many mansions. Now, the current minimum wage isn't so low because these workers are worth less than they were years ago. Quite the contrary. If the minimum wage had kept pace with workers' productivity increases since 1968, it would be over 20.
Well, this is what kills me too. We're perpetually just getting more and more productive, and
yeah,
it's just a fight for basic needs being met.
$2 an hour today. Even so, conservatives are out to scare you about raising the wage. Let's debunk each of their talking points. Myth number 1. If businesses have to raise wages, they'll cut employees' hours or cut jobs altogether. Rubbish. Since at least the 1930s, critics have argued that setting any minimum standard of decency at the workplace will raise employer costs and kill jobs. Child labor laws, the 40-hour work week, workplace safety laws. If we've learned anything over the years, it's that treating workers decently is worth the price. Besides, an abundance of research shows that increases in the minimum wage do not reduce the overall number of jobs. Researchers examined 138 state-level minimum wage increases and found that the number of low-wage jobs remained essentially unchanged in the 5 years following the increase. Well,
because for the most part, you can't decide how to staff your business just based off of, like, how much those employees cost. Like, most of it has to be, like, to get to the goal, right? Like, it just seems like kind of a silly argument. Like, okay, like, you might see some cuts, but if not enough to get to the point where you can't accomplish the business need.
I mean, I don't know. The only real big issue would be automation right there. So, like, let's say there's this thing called bottlenecking, right? In supply chain, it's a really big thing. So each step, let's say McDonald's, right? Each step, and the way that McDonald's has done this, and it's very smart how they've done it. So they calculate how long each step from the register to the prep station to the baggage and to handing out the food, like how long each step takes, right? So
Mhm.
assuming that like your biggest bottlenecking would be because those are pre-made stuff, like it gets made pretty quick, that hence the word fast food. So your bottlenecking comes from at the register, right? That's where the customer is going to
Yeah.
take the longest, so it slows down the process the most, right? So if you only have one register open, that means there's only so many orders that can come in. The longer period happens there, so the people behind it, they're essentially doing nothing. So to create productivity, right? You have to what do you have to do? You hire another cashier to open another register,
Mhm.
right? It goes back to the consumption thing, right? Like, so if you create more consumers, that means more people will indulge in to consume. That means you would need to hire more people. It just makes sense. So
Makes sense to me.
it doesn't like it doesn't kill jobs. It doesn't, because if people have money, they spend money.
Yeah, I
Majority
mean,
of people will spend money.
I guess this is something that has been studied pretty extensively, and it's actually kind of hard to like draw a conclusion, because they're like, it just affects different places in different sectors
Yeah.
differently. Like, there's some places where they have seen job cuts because of it, and there's some places where it hasn't been affected at all. So, I mean, if we did implement like a federal minimum wage of like 15 or 20 or something, I mean, we'd be at a point where it's kind of an experiment. We would have to see what would happen, but it sounds like for the most
No,
part it would be mostly for the better.
realistically, and the reason I would see like why people wouldn't like you would see job losses, and again, I guess we kind of going back to the McDonald's area, right? Well, maybe you don't go to McDonald's now, and then instead of like now you have more money, you go to a quote unquote better restaurant, right? Like instead of going to McDonald's, you go to Chick-fil-A. It costs a little bit more, but like it's not technically like, you know what I mean? It's technically better
Yeah.
food, right? So McDonald goes down. So that person, if they had three register, now it goes back to down to one register. Like the backline still is there. They don't necessarily get fired, right? Or maybe they get fired in a way like, well, McDonald's, instead of opening 24/7, they don't open 24/7. They close at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever. You know what I mean? So now the night shift goes away. Like, that's the only way I see this happening. But, like, is that really an argument for keeping majority of the country poor?
In
Because,
poverty. Yeah,
yeah, in
right.
poverty, like, hey, but wait, we need McDonald's. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it
Right.
just doesn't make sense. Like, if anything, if McDonald's is hurting and they do even an ounce of research, they go like, oh, well, we just need to have better food.
Right. Like, well, that is a good point too. It was actually a Keds video I was watching, kind of against this kind of argument, and it was saying that minimum wage increases are always implemented over a period of time. So companies that think they might be affected to that extent have time to problem solve around the
Mm.
issues that they think having to raise the wages might cause.
Yeah.
Like you said, like whether they um, change their recipes, make better food, or whatever, sector they're in, where they choose to improve their product, or, sure, invest some in some automation. They have the ability to do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like if these people change to give these workers more money, they're still making profits in the billions. It really just comes down to that too at the end of the day. Like the
yeah,
profits are in the
agreed.
billions, in the
Yeah.
billions. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense.
Workers were paid more. That's a job upgrade, not a job loss. And multiple studies have come to the same conclusion. When I led the fight to raise the minimum wage in 1996, many conservatives predicted huge job losses. Well, I'm happy to report that after the increase, almost 10 million low wage workers received a raise, with no decline in overall employment. It's simply a myth that raising the wage automatically means lost jobs. Not to mention the benefits for workers themselves. Raising the wage to $15 an hour by 2025, as proposed in the Raise the Wage Act, would give 32 million workers a raise. Here's the bottom line. If your business model depends on paying your workers starvation wages, you should not be in business. Myth number 2. Small businesses won't be able to afford the higher wage and will be put out of business. Baloney.
Balls.
The fact is, a higher minimum wage can actually lower costs to small businesses. How? Well, for starters, a higher minimum wage attracts more potential workers into the labor force,
Yeah.
thereby giving employers more choice of whom to hire. This leads to higher productivity and better service. Better service means more satisfied clients and customers. Higher paid workers are also more likely to stick around, saving businesses the hefty costs that come with recruiting, hiring, and training new workers. A study of the San Francisco airport confirms this. Researchers found that following a wage increase, a majority of workers who received a raise improved their overall performance. The higher wages even
I think that's a good point that we didn't bring up in our arguments against Ben. Just that when people are more satisfied with their pay and their jobs, they'll do a better job. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no,
kinda
100%.
self-explanatory as well.
And another thing is too, and I think we've kind of like driven the nail through the fucking board, and then into the other board with this point too, is like if consumers have more money,
Yeah.
they go and spend money, and
Yeah.
most people would like to support their local mom and pop store. They do.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you have more money to be, and essentially like a mom and pop can't compete with big corporations, they just can't, right? So they're always a little bit more expensive than a grinder, or like a burger at a mom and pop shop is definitely going to cost more than a McDonald's.
Right.
It just does.
And
It just
you
does.
assume it's like a better quality, but
But exactly.
yeah, I mean in general, yeah, there's other reasons for that too.
Right. But now if that mom and pop has more customer base, that means they have to hire more people.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a better working class. That means that mom and pop store is automatically doing better because there's more customers going to it.
Right. Like hiring's a good thing. Being able to pay your employees more is a good
Yeah.
thing.
And now
Hiring-
if that mom and pop is able to pay those workers a livable wage, they go and shop at another mom and pop store. Or
Mhm.
it just helps everybody. Everybody gets that share. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I feel like this is like it's like this is why I hate like arguing with somebody like Ben Shapiro, because he just doesn't like. And I'm just like, bro, just sit down, have an internal monologue, just think about it for fucking 2 seconds. You'll come up with the answer yourself.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, somebody who's just arguing with somebody who's paid to just like kind of prop up this side of things
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
It does kind of feel like a lost cause. It's like, hey, we don't even know what he really believes.
And he's a millionaire. It doesn't matter to him. You think he's
He's
shopping
just
at McDonald's?
Yeah, right.
No, he's not fucking shopping at McDonald's.
I mean,
like,
Trump does, but
well, yeah, well, that's different. Story.
led to shorter airport lines.
Trump is a 3-year-old.
Researchers also found that employee turnover declined by 34%, saving an estimated $6.6 million a year. Smart business owners understand this. Henry Ford, after introducing
I don't like the fact that we're
$5 day
fucking
in 1940,
propping up Henry Ford. I'm sorry, but like, I don't really like the fact that we're giving Henry Ford props. But you know, a fucking Nazi. But hey, you know,
should we skip?
no, keep it. Like it's just.
No,
Disclaimer:
I
the
agree.
dudes was in the fucking
That's
German side of
nice.
thing. You know, dude was like I doing the fucking Heil Hitler regularly.
when typical industry wages were less than half that, called it his best cost-cutting strategy because of the productivity boost that followed. Myth number 3, if the minimum wage is raised, prices for everything will skyrocket and lead to widespread inflation. Wrong again.
Kind of like the eggs.
Researchers have found that for every 10% increase in the minimum wage, prices increase by less than 0.5%. And it's a temporary price increase.
Less than 0.5%.
Oh wow.
That's what we're raging about.
We're scared of that. The 0.5%. Oh no. The pearl clutching is insane.
My word. Which it's gonna go up that much anyway because they use
Inflation is 2%.
they use the passage of time as an excuse to do this. So
Right.
like, can we at least get something out of it?
Yeah, the
Occurring
price is gonna go up
only in the-
anyways.
Yeah.
month the wage hike goes into effect. No way this sparks inflation. In fact, the minimum wage needs to be raised so it can keep up with inflation. Because of inflation, today's minimum wage is worth almost a third less than it was worth in 1968. And since it was last raised in 2009, it's lost 17% of its value. This means that compared to 2009, minimum wage workers have lost $3,950 every year. So that's why a higher minimum wage would boost economic growth. 70% of the economy depends on consumer spending. So more money in people's pockets means they can spend more on the goods and services that keep the economy going.
It's just
and
that
raising
simple.
the minimum wage would reduce the
It's really just that simple.
Yeah. Right. It's
If consumers had $4,000 extra in their pocket, I guarantee you they're spending it.
they
Ah,
would-
shit,
they
I'm
would do
spending it.
something with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, well, it goes back to like what's the point? Why are we restricting the consumer more and more and more and
I don't get
expecting
it.
to have a healthy economy out of it?
I've yet to see a good
amount
reason
of
for
money-
it.
Oh, sorry.
No,
the
no, go.
taxpayers spend on public assistance that families need because their breadwinners don't make enough to live on. It's estimated that nearly half of federal minimum wage workers' families are enrolled in at least one safety net program, costing the public $107 billion every year. That's right. Our tax dollars are subsidizing corporations that don't pay a living wage. Myth number 4.
And not for nothing, when we cut food stamps and Medicaid and all that, our tax dollars are gonna that's all gonna get more expensive too because
Yeah.
we're gonna go to ERs or people are gonna go to ERs and it's just gonna. And homelessness is extremely expensive. Like people don't
Yep.
realize the cost of like poverty on the system. Even
Yeah.
if you don't, even if you provide like the bare minimum that we do, like.
But you know the thing is though, it's this idea that people have. It's this otherness, right? Like, and then when they think of this
Mhm,
otherness,
yeah.
and when they think like people in poverty, people think that those people are just getting everything for free. That's where this whole welfare state comes into thing. It's not. Those people, there's nothing for free in this country.
That's so
There's
true.
just nothing.
Alrighty, we'll get through myth number 4.
Most minimum wage workers are teenagers making some extra money on the side. They don't need a wage increase. More rubbish. Well,
You
this
just want
might
poor
have been the
children?
case in 1968. It's certainly
Well, that's the thing too, right? Like, okay, on one hand we have, oh, it's just kids, they don't need to make that much money. And on the other hand, it's like, oh, well, why didn't you just work a job on the side of going to your college classes to
Yeah.
pay for college? It's like, okay, well, you can't have both. You gotta pick one. Are we gonna make a wage that's gonna make that anywhere close to possible?
Yeah.
Or, I lost my train of thought, but
Or we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing right now. And then, another thing is too, when these people go to McDonald's, who's the greeter there? You think it's just a fresh kid in college, or is it
Right,
an
when
old
you-
retired person that have to work now because their Social Security just isn't enough?
exactly. It's all like, oh, that's for high school students until you want your burger or Starbucks or whatever in the middle of the day, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like, well, they're in school, so I guess you can't have it since you decided that this isn't worth our.
You're right.
it
Right.
is not now. Today, only 1 in 10 workers who would benefit from a $15 minimum wage increase is a teenager. More than half of them are between the ages of 25 and
Working
54.
age.
More than half of them work full time, and over a quarter have children. Today's minimum wage hurts people who are in their prime earning years, preventing them from building wealth and establishing financial security.
Yep.
Raising the minimum wage would also help reduce racial and gender pay disparities. Minimum wage increases and expansions in the late 1960s reduced the income gap between black and white workers. Raising the wage would have a similar effect today because Black workers, Hispanic workers, and women comprise a large portion of today's low-wage workers. In sum, raising the minimum wage is good for workers, good for businesses, and good for the economy. In addition to all this, raising the minimum wage is the morally correct thing to do. It ought to lift working people out of poverty, not keep them in it. We're the richest country in the world, home to the richest people on the planet. We can and we must treat our workers with the dignity and respect they deserve. That starts with paying them a living wage.
Alrighty.
Yeah. And now we're gonna see the really sad side, the reality of what it is right now.
All
No,
right.
it was bad.
How much of that do we want to play? Do you
That's
want me
only
to
23
just start
minutes.
at the beginning? Or?
Yeah, just hit it. I think all of it is eye awakening. You can maybe even play it at a 1.2 times speed if you want.
Okay.
What? Who is Robert Reich, by the way? I've seen his videos and I agree with most of his stuff, but he's just saying too glee about Henry Ford, so I didn't want to.
I think he's just like a
Like an activist.
yeah, like a liberal personality, essentially.
Like a Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, he might have done some like I
I feel
guess
like
I would
I've
call
heard
it
him do.
activism what he's doing, but
I feel like I've seen like some controversy like about around him or something like that, or maybe I just went into the red pill area a little too much. I don't know.
I believe it. Alrighty, what do we want? 1.5?
It might be too fast, but try it.
We'll do 1.25. That's fine.
Manufacturing made America's middle class before the bottom fell out.
In 60 years, we went from about 100,000 factory workers to probably about 7,000.
100,000?
Oh, make it full screen.
7,000?
Now, in many towns and cities, food service is becoming a major economic engine.
I get the feeling this is a place where you see lots of regulars.
Yes, it is.
You want to make it
One
full
that
screen?
thrives on low pay and few
Oh,
benefits.
sorry.
It's literally a slave wage.
You're a two-income household, and yet you're having to rely on a food bank.
Barely anybody's making enough to live.
And 14% of the people, of the residents of Howard County, deal with food insecurity.
Clearly, there's a lot of need.
Leaving much of its vast and growing workforce struggling to put food on the table.
I don't remember growing up like this. My mom didn't have to go to food banks. My mom didn't have to, you know what I mean?
How do you survive?
Okay, everyone is trying to come up with crazy ways to skip ads. Like, chill, guys, just download Pi. This Chrome extension takes 5.
I don't hear anything.
More coffee? You're welcome. Everything okay?
Hot tea, hot tea. Betty, you want more coffee?
I can't get over how cheap everything is here.
I know.
It's like these prices haven't changed in the 45 years you've been open. I would love the Belt Buster.
Okay, the breakfast?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
The Breakfast House in Kokomo, Indiana has been around since the city's heyday as a manufacturing hub.
I get the feeling this is a place where you see lots of regulars.
Yes, it is.
And how long have you been here?
It'll be 42 years in March.
42 years. So without getting too personal, are tips enough to make a living off of?
Yes, yeah. Like I said, I've been doing it for 42 years.
Uh-huh. And you're living comfortably?
I don't have any complaints.
Uh-huh.
You know, I don't have a new car every year or whatever, but
Yeah.
I do all right.
Yeah.
Hamburger steak?
Oh, thank you. Do you think it helps the fact that you know your customers? They might be a little bit more
I
generous with
think
you?
so, yeah. I mean, there's some that come in here and, they're real nice and all, but they don't leave anything.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that do just that way.
But generally, you feel like if you're a good server, you'll get good tips.
Uh-huh.
In 2009, Kokomo's unemployment rate spiked at about 20%, and it became known as one of America's fastest dying cities.
Throughout town, it's hard not to walk 5 feet without seeing some of the relics of the manufacturing industry that really drove the economy, not only of this town, but of this country. And it's all kind of relegated to the past.
But today, it's recovering, with unemployment around 3%, and one of the businesses that's hiring is restaurants.
This is so fascinating from up here. You can kind of see the economy in transition. Like off in the distance, you can see some factories that are still humming, but most of them are just kind of abandoned. And then you look over here and you see strip malls.
Cheryl Graham works for the local United Way and has seen the shifts in the labor market firsthand.
So these are all factories.
This is the casting plant, Kokomo Casting Plant. It is a premier in the world. I mean, they make the best casings in the world, the most casings in the world. This is a transmission plant. This is Kokomo Transmission.
So there are still lots of manufacturing jobs here.
Lots of manufacturing, but in reality, going from early part of the middle of the 19th century to now, we went from about 100,000 factory workers to probably about 7,000.
100,000 to 7,000?
In 60 years, I'd say, yeah.
And it's effectively been replaced by shopping centers and restaurants.
Shopping centers, service industries, small factories.
It's not really an equal exchange, is it?
No, restaurant work used to be part-time, something the kids could do. Brought in extra money, and now people have 2 or 3 jobs in that type of an industry.
In contrast to the union jobs with good salaries and benefits once offered by manufacturers, take-home pay for those working for tips isn't always guaranteed. Cassie Redmond moved to Kokomo about 6 years ago. Her husband works full-time at a food packaging plant, and she works as a server 4 days a week.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Washington State.
How did you end up here in Kokomo?
Better life. I had gotten a job through staffing at a factory, and it was paying pretty good, $10 an hour, getting like 50 to 60 hours a week. So that's not bad. But I was still nursing, so it was really hard. So I got my husband on at the job, and then I quit, and he stayed working there so I could be at home with our daughter.
Your husband is fully employed. How are you doing financially?
We were living paycheck to paycheck. He was bringing home $500 a week. So I found a job in the restaurant to become a server. First time ever being a server.
Are you still there?
Nope. I left, like, being busy the entire shift, and at the end of the night have $60. That was crazy to me. I knew I was worth more than that. I knew I could make more than that somewhere. So I finally went out to Carmel, which is like 45-minute drive away from where I live, one way. And I got the job out there. They're richer out there. They spend money. They don't care about spending money.
So the tips are better.
Tips are way better. You get at least 20%. So you're making anywhere from $10 to $20 per table.
Like, just listen to that. Just listen to that. People that have more money spend more money. What a fucking wild concept.
Wow, yeah.
What a fucking wild concept that is. Who would have thought? Like, you know, people that have more money spend fucking more money.
On the other hand, though, like, when I was watching this, I kind of thought about that, though, because when we first moved down here, I did, like, quite a bit of, like,
catering,
like bartending, serving and stuff like that, just because it, you know, gotta work, and it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to just accept anything in, like, the social work field, because you'll kill yourself doing that. But,
yeah.
But, like, I bartended more than served, and I did it in Charlotte, so it just, like, the huge difference, like, we're all getting paid $213 as the base, right? But like, the huge difference between what you can get, like, a diner in, I've never heard of Kokomo before, where I don't remember the state, even what state they're in, but you know, I imagine it looks like a very small town versus like doing it in the city. Like, what you can make is, like, hugely different. I don't know. So while I was thinking about it, I was just like, well, if we implemented, like, you know, that all servers have to have, like, a base wage of, like, the $7.25, and then, like, you could tip on top of it. I do think some people probably wouldn't. I think that would not be. I don't think bartenders in cities and stuff like that would really like that.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? I don't know. I don't know what, like, they would like. But I feel like that's such a. I feel like tipping is so weird.
Tipping is weird, and I mean, that to say, I mean, servers and bartenders in cities would have, you know, leverage again to argue for better than $7.25 an hour. Like, okay, I'm making you, like, stupid amounts of money an hour, so you have to pay me at least, like, 20 or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an argument against it. It's just like, it's just such a varied field. I guess.
That's what I was gonna say. It's so vast, and because even like just 45 minutes away is vastly different, right?
Yeah.
So it's just I don't understand how that works. It's just like I could understand maybe like if the thing could be like, well, the restaurant provides like healthcare and like stuff like that and like paid leave and whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's necessarily like provided, and like you know
No,
then
yeah, right. Like not typically.
yeah, not exactly. And then like and then you know they maybe instead of $2.13 they make it like $4, right? You know what I mean? But leave it up to the states, but like put a federal minimum, you know?
Well, some places have done that, but the argument is still that it should be. They just basically want it to be like a fair, livable wage. Because
Yeah,
mean, it is,
I don't know about that,
Even
but I
if
just
even if you are typically making like your $20-$25 an hour because you're in like a highly trafficked area, where people maybe have more money, you are
Yeah.
still. I mean, you still can't walk in to your job one day and make a guarantee of what you're going to bring back. So
yeah,
it
because
is
people can just
still-
not.
Right, you could have a day where everybody's an asshole and you could make nothing. Or
Yeah.
I mean, they mentioned like tip out and stuff like that. Like if you have a bad enough day, you could end up owing the restaurant money. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so it's just like on one hand I like the argument that I made first, like I do see it, but on the other hand it's like, well, wouldn't you just prefer to just have like a livable wage, and maybe like sometimes you do get a tip still for exceptional service,
Yeah.
but you can budget how much money you bring home, you have
wouldn't-
health care, that sort of stuff.
Wouldn't you as a customer like that better, that you don't have to tip, you just pay your bill and you just go about your way? You know what I mean? Like it'd just like I would assume like it'd just be built into it, you know what I mean? But like
Well, sure, I mean, yeah, the prices would go up,
but that's what they do.
but they would, I mean, you're assuming you're a decent person, you are already paying that because you're tipping
Yeah.
the server.
Yeah.
So
So I don't know.
I
I
guess
don't know.
the only detriment on the customer side would be for people who don't feel the need to tip their servers.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how other countries have done it, because I know there's a lot of countries where that's not allowed. Like tipping is not allowed. Like a lot of European, Asian countries, like
Yeah,
you just
in
don't tip.
Europe, those servers are like unionized. They got everything.
Yeah.
Like that's like a profession. That's a career field.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, even here, I mean, that lady at the beginning says that she's managed to live her whole life doing that. So I think it also shows to just like kind of a decline,
Yeah.
because you can't. I mean, this is a 2-person household and they can't do it.
Yeah.
Versus at my old restaurant, I'd have to wait on 6 to 10 tables to make $20.
The federal
Yeah, that's
minimum
insane.
wage in the U.S. is
Like
That's crazy. Like
that's insane.
like, A, what are the prices? B, like, clearly everyone in this town is just a giant asshole.
Well, or they're just poor and they just can't spend.
I get it, yeah. That too. And I mean, if you're buying like a $6 sandwich or whatever, and you leave like
What are you gonna tip?
like, yeah.
$7.25 an hour. But there's an exception for employees that earn tips called the tipped minimum wage that allows restaurants to pay as little as $2.13 per hour in 15 states.
Thank you so much. So how long have you worked as a server?
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
Nikki Books is a single mom with an 8-month-old boy.
I love serving. I love getting to know people and, interacting with people, especially like having an 8-month-old child. Like the only people I get to interact with is when I'm at work. Other than that, I'm interacting with an 8-month-old all the time.
So you're working as a server now.
Yes.
What do you get per hour as a wage?
In Indiana, you make $2.13 an hour.
$2.13 an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
You
what
don't
is
see a
$2.13?
paycheck. Your paycheck literally says, "This is not a check." It says $0. This is not a check.
Because it just goes to taxes. So basically, you're starting at zero. On average, what do you get per hour in tips?
I would say, on average, I walk out with maybe 10 to 12% of my sales. When it's customary to tip 15 or 20,
Yeah.
For good service.
How much would you say you're walking out with each night?
I mean, that varies too. During the week, it's not nearly as much. Like this week, I walked out with like $20 one night. and $35 the next night. And then like on the weekend, I made like 75.
So even on a good night, if you break down hourly, you're barely hovering above even the minimum wage, like
Right.
the federal minimum wage of $7.
Right. And you have to tip out. I mean, most restaurants is roughly 3 to 5% of your sales. So like even if people are tipping the 20% that is standard for great service, most servers are tipping out 3 to 5% of that to bussers, hosts, and bartenders.
So even if I'm generous and I leave 25%, you as a server are not seeing 25%. You're
No.
seeing 20.
Roughly 20, yeah.
What if I leave you nothing? What happens?
Then we have to pay that tip out whether you give us money or not. So like say your bill is $100 and I have to tip out 5% and you don't tip me at all, I'm paying $5 to wait on you out of my own pocket.
Does that happen?
Often.
Often.
Yes. I would say it probably happens at least once a shift.
How do you survive?
I have a roommate. And I live with my brother and we have a roommate. And so right now I'm only paying a third of the bills. I don't know how I do it some days, honestly, but I have to. I mean, so I used to donate plasma.
I mean,
That's insane.
like so a grown adult and her child lives with her brother and a fully grown adult just to survive in one household. Like, is that so? This is what people want. This is the
And okay with
vision
this.
of America that we want.
And we're being too idealistic when we point that out.
Right. And I mean, she just said that she sells plasma. I had a coworker who actually did do that when I was serving. And it's just like, that should never, if you're going to do that, you should do that because you have some
Kindness.
altruistic, like,
Yeah.
want to do that. Like,
Yeah, kindness in your heart.
I mean,
For
to make-
survival?
to live, yeah, to pay your rent. Like, they make, like, it's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, like the fall of this country is here. This is the fall of the country. This is why.
Yeah.
You know,
She
people would
provides
look
a
at us.
service that people want, that we require in our society, and yet we refuse to pay her, and we think it's fine that she has to sell her plasma to be able to feed her kid. Like,
Yeah, I just don't get it. Like we don't get paid here to donate. That is crazy to me. Yeah, I can see why, but like what do you mean? Like you get paid? Oh, you don't get paid when you donate stuff? Like when you go donate blood?
if I switch over to the comments, is that?
No, really? Oh, that's. I mean, yeah, but I guess Australia
I
isn't.
think you only get paid for
We get a juice.
like the plasma, not blood.
Yeah. No, we don't get for blood. For plasma, we do. And like, if you want to donate like a kidney or something, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And like,
Yeah, take it.
eggs if you want to. If you donate eggs
You can,
and semen.
yes, you can get paid for. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
I think
But
that's
it's
a
just
difficult
like
process,
it's just
though.
that is a very difficult process. It's a difficult process, but they do it though because some people need to do it. But it's just like it's just
we
dangerous.
know someone who applied to do that, for the record.
Who? What?
Michelle did that. She didn't do it, but she applied to. Anyway. Shall I hit play? Yeah.
Yeah. Hit play.
But I've had
Ah.
surgeries in the past 6 months, so I can't even donate plasma anymore.
You're donating plasma to get by.
In the past 2 decades, while manufacturing jobs have declined 25%, the food service sector has increased jobs by 50%.
The restaurant industry right now is one of the largest and fastest growing industries in America. It's almost 14 million workers. 1 in 11 American workers currently works in restaurants. 1 in 2 Americans has worked in the industry at some point in their lifetime, and yet it continues to be the absolute lowest paying employer in the United States.
I'm trying to make sense of that. The industry grows because there's profit,
Right.
there's possibility,
That's right.
but the people who are actually working, who are essential to that particular industry,
are seeing none of that return.
That's right. That is purely political and historical because there's a very powerful trade lobby in this industry, the National Restaurant Association. We call it the other NRA. And it turns out in doing research, this huge lobby that represents the chains, the Applebee's, the IHOPs, it's been around 150 years in various forms since emancipation of slavery. Turns out that tipping as a practice originated in feudal Europe. It was something that aristocrats and nobles gave to serfs and vassals, but always on top of a wage. When the idea came to the States, the restaurant lobby demanded the right to hire newly freed slaves, mostly black women, not pay them anything, and have them live entirely on this new idea that had just come from Europe called a tip. And so there was a mutation of that point from tipping as an extra or a bonus to tipping as the wage itself.
It's time for you to get your reading superpower. So stop straining your eyes and start listening instead.
He said Rudolph. Oh, how sweet, Bubba. You love him. Give him a hug too, Bubby.
Federal law does require restaurants to ensure all workers get paid the full minimum wage and make up the difference when tips fall short. But from 2010 to 2012, the U.S. Department of Labor found that out of over 9,000 investigated restaurants, 84% violated wage and hour laws.
So there are some who would say you're working 4 days a week, anywhere from 25 to 35 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't survive off your tips, maybe you just need to be a better server. Maybe you're just not good at what you do.
That's pretty ridiculous because we're only getting paid $2.13 an hour, and we rely completely on what people give us on top of what they're paying for their bill. And you can work your butt off and give them the best service they could have ever hoped for that night. And if they feel like only giving you a $5 tip on a $50 bill, then that's all they're going to give you. You can't go back to them and be like, I deserve more. Most things I have, I go to garage sales for things that we need. I buy a lot of used items because it's a lot cheaper. So pretty much everything in my house is used. It's not new. I've not bought anything new unless it's like a pair of shoes here and there for like work. The clothes I have are either given to me or they're the same clothes I've had for the past few years. My children's clothes, I get handed down to me from friends of that have kids that are about the same age or a little bit older. I really work the resources and we still struggle. So this is my budget book.
Something that used to drive me crazy when I was working like directly with people is that I would almost always be told like to work on budgeting with people. It would just be like a requirement either from like the state for like the grant for the program or a federal requirement, something like that. But most people were living in situations like this, where it's like, you can't budget your way out of your bills exceeding your income.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing I just want to say that used to drive me crazy, but it's also like such a kind of a pervasive argument when it comes to poverty. Is just like, oh, these people just like, don't know how to manage their money. They don't know how to budget. Like, well, this woman just kind of explained everything that she does. Clearly shows that she's not spending frivolously. So.
Right.
Or my ledger. My husband gets paid weekly, and each of those paychecks, I write down the different bills. We got rent, gas, electricity, internet, phone bill, car insurance, car payment, kids insurance.
It adds up.
Something that really, really strikes me as I look at this. You forecasted out a month and a half in advance where your expenses are, all based on what your husband brings in, because he brings in a full salary. Like, you know exactly what he's bringing in what week. You haven't put anything for food though. You can't negotiate rent.
Nope.
Right? Rent is rent. Car is car. Insurance is insurance. Food, maybe we're going hungry this month. Maybe we're eating less. Is that something you have to think about?
Yep.
So food is like the last thing that you're expensive
The last
for.
thing I think of, because it's whatever we have left will go towards it. That includes going to food banks. We base what we're going to eat, what we get out of food banks.
A 2014 report found that of almost 300 surveyed restaurant workers, nearly 1 out of 3 were food insecure.
Oh, the sun is shining. It's 18 degrees. Wonderful.
David Luft helped stock local food pantries with donations from wholesale stores.
Feed America does a number of studies. They're one of the national groups. And their most recent study of Indiana and the 92 counties, Howard County, Kokomo's located in, ranks the third worst, if you will, in terms of food insecurity. And 14% of the people, of the residents of Howard County, deal with food insecurity. And so you have a choice every month of how you're going to spend those few discretionary dollars that you have. And in some cases, they just can't afford the things that they'd like to have. And that's not luxury items. That's just the basics. But we're doing our part. In 2018, in that calendar year, we served over 9,100 family units, households. in 2018 through our pantry, which is amazing, which is up about 18% from the year before. This is where Sam's does a lot of his loading and unloading. How you doing this morning? Gary, right? I figured it out. It only took a couple weeks. What did you say that word? Yes. Yes. Good work, Gary. Good work. Potatoes.
Good work, Gary.
Woohoo! Thanks, Nicole.
I love it.
Yes, potatoes.
Yes,
As of
potatoes.
2014, it was estimated that 1 out of 7 people in the U.S., around 46 million, rely on Feeding America's network of 200 food banks and 60,000 partner food pantries. The food pantry in Kokomo provides much needed assistance in the area, but to make sure there's
You know how exciting it is when you are like working at a food bank and you get like something like fresh dairy or
Yeah.
like fresh produce?
Yeah. I remember I literally
Self-explanatory, but
yeah, and it's
oh
so
yeah, you at Continuum. You
yeah,
sell
we
that
would
too.
go, yeah, thanks, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
we
You're welcome for that.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Loved it. It was great. We'll do it again in a heartbeat. We would go to the food banks and it would just be like just like straight processed cans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just crackers. That was
Right, like a lot of snacks and stuff.
like just yeah, that was it. Like nothing ever nutritious, like just straight sugar stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was just that. And like it's just like I don't know. And nobody thinks about that.
Well, right. I
And,
mean,
and
well,
like just to go back to saying like the welfare thing, everybody thinks like once you become poor, like you get all of it for free. Like you can just walk into Whole Foods, you get everything for free.
you take your food stamps and go get like steaks and
Yeah.
lobster all the time, which is like it's not really.
It's just not true. And if you could do it, why aren't you doing it? Just
Right.
quit your job, just go into poverty.
Right, if it's such a glamorous.
It's so exactly. Just let the government pay for everything. Just try it out.
there's enough to go around. Each person or family is only able to use their services once every 30 days. Cassie Redmond received a special holiday gift card from the pantry worth $100 to use at a local supermarket. She's using it to subsidize her family's Christmas dinner.
Go for the cheapest, even if it's not the tastiest. Found the jackpot. Normally $42, only $10 today. That's amazing. We still already spend over $100 every week, and that's going to food banks. Like with 2 kids, a husband that works, me, it's really, really difficult to make it every week. You know what I mean? Like the prices keep going up, but our wages stay the same, and it's like our budget has to.
So now,
because
like,
we can't live off of what we used to.
So now when Doge goes through the waste, abuse, and fraud for food stamps, or when this new resolution is going to get passed, or it has already passed, and you have to cut $880 billion from Medicare and all that, from those committees, and then $230 from Agriculture Committee, this is the person that gets affected.
Right.
What she could, when she has to pay for everything, and then maybe go hungry that week, and where that food stamp or whatever could have helped her not do that. Now, instead of going hungry 1 week, she's possibly going to go hungry 2 weeks.
Right. And they're both working. This is a
And they're
family,
both
like, with
working.
full
She works
income.
4 days. She works 4 days, and her husband is a full-time worker.
Yeah.
So who's taking care of those kids? You know what I mean? Like, that's an expense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
And if she
the
doesn't do
other
it, she
woman-
can't afford to live.
Right.
So it's just insane. And she gets paid $2.13, guys. Like $2.13 an hour, which she doesn't even get the paycheck for because that goes directly to taxes.
Yep.
And if you don't tip her, she doesn't make any money. That other lady was making $20 a day. You literally you have to listen to this and go $20 a day, man.
Right, like
Come on,
people
man.
who like would watch something like this and just want to like fight or be like, oh, but what if like it's like, yeah, it's just kind of hard.
Like,
to
how can you argue
justify.
that? Like,
Right.
like, go
Like,
tell her
okay,
that she's not working hard
right.
enough.
Convince me that these two women don't deserve to like eat every day, feed their kids every day.
That's insane. Like, that's insane if that's the argument you come back with. Like, hey, man, fuck them kids. It's like that's what you come in here with? This is the energy we're coming here with? Like, just, hey, fuck them kids, man. Like, she don't need them. Hey, she don't need to eat. Like, what is that? What is that?
Or they'll say, well, you shouldn't have had them then. Like, well,
Yeah, right, like-
well, they're here, so I think they should probably.
But it's Indiana. I'm pretty sure abortion's illegal there now.
Yeah, for sure, right?
So
I think it's super illegal there.
exactly.
To be able to live off of.
I thought we wanted the Christian value, Christian
As powerful as
families.
one lobby may be, 213, I think, would strike most Americans as outrageous.
Outrageous.
How has this continued on?
It is the Restaurant Association and their cronies and their allies in Congress and in 43 state legislatures that have managed to keep wages as low as humanly possible. I do think it's important to recognize, you're right, it's unconscionable. It's literally a slave wage. I do think it's important to recognize that this is a 70% female workforce. And so I do think, in thinking about how has a wage stayed at $2.13, when you're looking at an industry that's majority female, you understand that basically the nation has valued these women at a $2 wage.
So as you see it, there's no real
Did you have thoughts you wanted to add? I know you're a raging feminist and you just love these types of arguments, so.
Sorry, I'm away from the computer.
Oh, sorry.
I walked away real quick.
Brandon,
What
the fact that
did
this
they
is a
say?
largely
I will add.
Nothing. It was a joke.
Oh.
female-driven industry, and the wage discrepancy is what it is.
That's right. Management and ownership is overwhelmingly male. The workforce is overwhelmingly female. And these are the lowest income women in America.
As of 2014, 1 in 6 restaurant workers, or about 16%, live below the poverty line, 10 percentage points higher than the national average. Many have to rely on government assistance to supplement their wages.
I hate the cold. I don't know why I live somewhere where the air hurts my face.
Nikki is enrolled in the WIC nutrition program for women, children, and infants, which helps pay for formula and other essentials for her 8-month-old child.
Why do they only have one and they don't have the bigger ones? I would say if I had to buy all the formula, like if I didn't get WIC at all, it would probably be about $150 a month just for formula, not counting food. And diapers are not cheap. Just having a kid in general is not cheap.
This game, you're not ready for it.
Oh, these are adorable. They're little baseballs. After I paid my babysitter on Wednesday, I made $10. After I paid her on Thursday, I made $20. Friday, I think I made $60. Saturday, I made about $70. And then Sunday, I made $70. Like, if you think about it, that's not really that much. Like, you're not even pulling
No, it's not anything at all.
And that's supposed to support.
Yeah, I mean, you're for like over half the week, you're basically paying to go to work.
Yeah.
Support you and a whole other person. If I have to buy him formula and that's all I have money for, then I will live off cereal because cereal's pretty cheap, and ramen because ramen's extremely cheap. Or if I have to live off the McDonald's dollar menu, my life is not about me anymore. It's about him. And he's the best part of my life. He's the one thing that gets me through every day. But kids, they grow so fast. They need clothes, they need food, they need diapers. And those are things that you can't just go without. If I don't have the money, I just put it on my credit card and hope that I make enough to pay off my credit card.
So what do you say to critics who may say, look, the industry is what it is. This is the wage. Tips are, as you said, unstable. You may get a great tip one day and maybe not a great tip the next. Then find another job.
I would say a lot of different things. First, I would say this is the largest and fastest growing industry in America. These are the jobs that are now available. Lots of other sectors have declined or left the states. These are the jobs that are here to stay, number one. Number two, thousands, millions of these workers take great pride in their work. And it is not impossible for a restaurant to value these women, these workers, as the professionals that they are.
We essentially have a two-tiered wage system
That's right.
in the U.S. How many states have a federal tipped minimum wage?
So over the last 80 years, since federal law said these workers could be paid zero, we've seen 7 states move away from this system. California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Minnesota, Montana, and Alaska all require the restaurant industry to pay a full minimum wage with tips on top. Now, if you listen to the National Restaurant Association, you might think those 7 states have no restaurants, because their argument has been, if you force us to pay a wage, the industry will collapse, wages will be lost, restaurants won't survive. On the contrary, these 7 states actually have higher restaurant industry sales per capita, higher job growth in the restaurant industry.
Imagine that! Wow, what a fucking like what? What? How did that happen, guys? How did that happen? What a wild concept! You pay people more, and the economy thrived. Whoa, I love that.
All the states that allow $2.13 an hour.
Cents an hour. Almost 1 in 5 waitstaff workers were in poverty, but in states where $7.25 an hour was guaranteed, that number was lowered to about 1 in 10.
You know, a lot of people will have like thousands of dollars in their savings because that's their life savings. Our life savings right now is about $400, and that's if an emergency happens. If a car,
Which is pretty average for this country.
Yeah.
We said that earlier.
breaks down and we need to tow it, and that tow is going to be $100. That way, we're not dipping into rent or gas or phone bill.
So what you call your life savings, you're driving down the highway, your car breaks down, or you get a flat. It's easily $200, $300, $400. Your
Especially if it's on the weekend.
Is gone.
We have to start over. I don't remember growing up like this. My mom didn't have to go to food banks. My mom didn't have to, you know what I mean? Like she was a single mom and worked at a insurance firm or whatever, just filing, and she was able to do it. And nowadays it's like you have to have 4 incomes in one household to just like be comfortably living, like having cars that run, not having to go to food banks, not having to, wake up early in the morning so you can go to sit in a food bank for 3 hours to get enough food to last you a week. So it's pretty sad.
I mean, not everybody has a degree. Not everybody can get a 6-figure job or even a $50,000 a year job. Barely anybody's making enough to live. The reality is you have older people working in fast food because that's the only job they can get because they never got a college degree, or you have, people serving because they like to serve and they need the flexible schedule and the cash every day. So I think that people just need to end the stigma of, oh, you chose that job, but like sometimes people don't. It's what they can get. I feel like there are a lot of people who just don't grasp like the concept of it or understand that that's our livelihood, like that we really don't get a paycheck, and then they want to blame it on the employer. But they're, like I said, they're paying it somewhere. They're either paying it in the inflation on the food if they were paying us all a livable wage, or they're going to pay it on the tip. It really is terrible that you have to rely on other people essentially for your livelihood, your bills, the clothes on your children's back. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, like, how do you watch this and not get radicalized? I don't understand it.
I know, it's
like, how do you like not fucking rage against this country for what it's done?
Right. I mean,
she's in a deep red state.
Defeated.
She's in a deep red state.
I don't know. I don't know how people do it.
And I'm not blaming those girls for it, but they're gonna turn around and vote for a guy like Trump, and I understand it. It's justified.
I mean, we don't know that. We don't know who they voted for.
But again, like, I'm just saying, like, somebody in that situation will turn around and hear a thought like, oh, there's gonna be no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Somebody's gonna look at a guy like Trump just to not to put it all on his shoulders, because this is a long stemming issue and it's a bigger issue, but they hear that and think he's gonna help us when in fact it's just gotten worse because of all his cuts, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
they
hear
necessarily
you.
they necessarily shouldn't they shouldn't need to be relying on welfare from the state to survive,
Mhm.
but some people do, and when you take away even that avenue, what are you really doing? Who are you really saving? Who are you? Where's this waste, fraud, and abuse that you're looking for, right? Like
Right.
that's it's there. Like that's where the money's going.
Well, I mean, you can look for waste, fraud, and abuse without
Hurting these
taking
people.
down these without hurting these people, without taking down these institutions that we have, and then saying you're going to build them back up, either and then doing it either privatized or extremely limited as to what they used to be. I mean,
Yeah.
we've said this, all of these programs, any government program is audited usually at least once a year.
More than.
In some capacity.
More than.
So, yeah, I mean, the waste, fraud, and abuse, all that is just, it's disingenuous to say that, this is the first time ever we're having an audit of the government. It's like the government
Bullshit.
is always audited.
The government is always out of it. Yeah. I watched an interview with an inspector general for USAID, I believe, or it must have been another organization. I think could have been the IRS. And then he's like, "Yeah, the USAID was audited 60 times last year."
Right.
60.
Of course. I mean, of course, that's what they're doing. That's what their jobs are.
That's 5 times a month.
Anybody in the government takes understanding that they're using taxpayer dollars seriously. So there's internal agencies that audit, there's external agencies, there's private agencies that audit.
Yeah.
And there's public agencies that audit. I mean,
Yeah.
these things are just audited constantly. So to say sure, if you're looking at these entitlement programs like food stamps, Medicaid, is there an occasional case of fraud, waste, or abuse? Sure. Most of the time, in my experience, I had a few clients who got money taken away from them, being told that they had committed fraud, waste, or abuse, in that they claimed income that wasn't true or something like that. Most of the time, it was in the government's favor. My clients were fucked over for a couple months over something that wasn't their fault and was not fraud, waste, or abuse.
Right. And if you want, I know the big thing that during COVID was everybody's living on unemployment. I just recently talking to one of my customers who works for environmental cleanup, but during the time of November and Christmas, November, December, and January, they kind of shut down. There's really the company just doesn't do any lot of work. And so he goes on unemployment, but then now he just got hired a couple weeks ago, and they still sent him money, but then right away he gets a letter saying, "Oh, we sent you 2 weeks of pay. You need to give us that back." That's the system working properly.
Exactly. All the supposed dead people, the Social Security Administration knows when you're dead.
Yeah.
They
know. Very much
and
so.
they stop those payments right away.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just I don't get all this. It's just I don't see the arguments for this. I don't know.
And
I don't
again,
know.
Not saying that there's absolutely no fraud, waste, or abuse, but that's what systems that we have to audit these programs in existence. That's what we have them for.
Yeah. Well, again, if you watch this, I don't see how you don't get radicalized by people going to Hungary, kids going to Hungary. It's just it doesn't make sense to me.
Yep.
Anyways, thank you for joining us on this Thursday, as always.
Yeah, a little bit of a bummer episode. Sorry.
It's a little bit of a bummer episode. We don't mean to bring you down, but I feel like you gotta kind of shed the light on some of this stuff, right? Shed the light on the actual problems, the real problems. Being livable wages. It's when you listen to Ben Shapiro talk about it's by supply and demand, and then one burger is being made an hour, you just think about it. Like listen to anybody you want to listen to. You know, please, like that. It's your life. The internet's free. You listen to it, but just think about it. Just think about the argument. Like just because the guy talks fast and he has a degree from Harvard or wherever, doesn't necessarily always means like he's talking about your benefit or he knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? Like it's just and again,
Well, you also have to look
again,
at
check
like,
us.
What benefit does he get out of his belief or his what he's touting?
Yeah, and you can always check us. I mean, every time we talk about something, we're showing you. We're literally showing you where we gain our information and what we're talking about. It's right there for your own eyes.
Sure, we're also not really benefiting from any of this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
We don't really have ulterior motives.
We don't. All right. Thank you for joining us. Please follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch here. We try to do this every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're gonna have more videos on TikTok and Instagram eventually. We promise. We promise. We will make those happen.
Yeah, somebody's supposed to have been made a TikTok.
I just told you I've been insanely busy. So my midterms are coming up. I have other work. My dad's away, so I gotta take care of 2 businesses. It's a whole lot of stuff happening. But I will get to it, and I gotta build up the courage to just. I've kind of been jumping around from topic to topic, and I don't know if I should do an introductory video or just go right into it, or. And every week we have
right into it.
Okay, and every week we have a new topic, so I'll always listen to something. I'm like, oh yeah, like this should be it. But then I go like, well, no, I listen to something else, then this should be it. You know what I mean?
But the TikToks don't have to have anything to do with what we're talking about.
I know. I just
to give people like an idea of what we're like.
Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't made one either. But
so judging me from your lofty throne, yeah, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, well, I will do one. I will for sure do one once I get a little bit of breather here and there. Yeah, but please like, subscribe, watch, comment, whatever. Whether you agree with us, you disagree with us. If we've done anything wrong, said anything wrong, please correct us. More than happy for that criticism. Not a problem.
Yeah, we do have an email if anybody wants to email and let us know that we said something like egregiously wrong.
Yeah. And if you want us to talk about a topic, we are more than happy to. We're more than happy to talk about it. We'll do our research. We'll try to bring a show to you guys on that topic. And please, we would very much appreciate that, because there's always a battle between us going like, what are we going to talk about? You know, so if you can help us out, 2 undecisive people, that'd be really awesome. But we have a special episode. I'm going to a little bit spoil it a little. Next week, hopefully. We have a guest coming up. We'll leave that. Assuming all goes well. So we won't tell you who the guest is, but hopefully everything goes well. We have a special episode with a hot topic. So tune in next Thursday, please. At All the Factors on YouTube, All the Factors on Twitch, TikTok, and Instagram. Please follow us there. To stay up to date with us. And this was All the Factors with Nav and
Annette.
There you go.
Right,
Thanks
thanks for watching, guys. Alright, let's end it. Oh, let's stop. Alrighty. We should be stopped. It'll probably take a second.
It'll take forever.